Hello and happy National Hydropower Day. I'm Malcolm Wolf, President and CEO of the National Hydropower Association. Today, we are honored to have U.S. Department of Energy Deputy Secretary David Turk with us to help us celebrate National Hydropower Day. Deputy Secretary Turk, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Well, I'm happy to be with you, Malcolm, and let me just add to our audience here a huge happy National Hydropower Day to everyone from the Department of Energy.
Thank you very much. Let me start our conversation with a discussion on the role of hydropower on the clean energy grid. From NHA's perspective, we believe that hydropower is an essential part of a climate solution. It's America's first renewable resource. We provide 7% of U.S. electricity on the grid today. About 40% of all renewables are from hydropower and water power of some kind, which means we're serving about 30 million Americans. At the same time, we think that hydropower actually serves as a force multiplier in that because of our flexibility, we're the renewable that helps integrate other renewables. So the flexibility from reservoir hydro and pump storage help enable us to integrate more wind and solar onto the grid. So I wanted to start off with your perspective on the role of hydropower and pump storage in meeting President Biden's ambitious 2035 zero carbon grid goal.
Well, let me first thank you, Malcolm, and thank NHA for your leadership for many, many years. And it's a pleasure to be with you on National Hydropower Day. Let me start just by making the 2 points, and you sort of hit them in your question, just how important hydropower is, both how important it is currently. You mentioned the 7% figure of clean electricity, actually 7% of overall U.S. electricity, and of course the hydropower, as the nice intro video showed, the first renewable resource used in the U.S. But we've got to do more with hydro. If we're going to get to 100% clean electricity in 2035, which is not that many years off, we've got to take advantage of all our renewable assets, and certainly taking full advantage of hydro, including opportunities to add more hydropower onto the system. And I think we'll get into that a little bit more as the conversation goes on. And then the second part of hydro that's incredibly important and impactful already, and we look forward to, again, taking more full advantage of it going forward, is on the pumped hydro storage side of things. Storage is such an important part of the grid right now. And as we get closer and closer to that 100% clean electricity standard by 2035, the storage piece is going to be even more important going forward. Pumped hydro storage already plays such a huge part of that overall storage equation. And I expect that will only increase in terms of hydro's importance going forward on that. Storage is a big deal. We're spending a lot of time at the Department of Energy on it. We've launched recently a long duration energy storage, what we're calling Earthshot, to really drive those costs down for a variety of storage technologies, including on pumped hydro as well. So we've got to do both of those pieces, both get the full advantage of hydro for clean electricity, but also take advantage of those storage capabilities as well.
Could not agree more. Let me shift gears a little bit and talk about the bipartisan infrastructure package that just passed the Senate, as well as this concept of the 3 Rs that we've been talking, the hydro industry has been talking with the river community about. In the infrastructure bill, there's over $750 million in DOE grants to industry, and they'd be targeted for those resources that invest in environmental, dam safety, or efficiency improvements in the existing fleet, as well as a separate pot of money for either efficiency improvements or for new generation, kind of non-power dams or conduit power. We're excited by those grant programs, but we're also excited by the broader package that includes $2.3 million for the 3 Rs. Retrofitting dams is important to us to increase power, but so is rehabilitation to improve dam safety, particularly of the non-power dams, and removal of some of America's 90,000 dams that may no longer serve a purpose. So we have been working with the river community and dam safety advocates to raise the profile of addressing the nation's 90,000 dams. So I wonder if you could comment on the significance of this, frankly, historic coalition and the role that DOE might be able to play in helping to address this challenge.
Well, it is, Malcolm, a historic coalition, and it's a historic opportunity that we find ourselves in the U.S. Over these next several month period of time. And let me start with a big thank you for everyone involved in the 3Rs and the Uncommon Dialogue. It's been terrific to see a group of different perspectives all coming together with ambition in mind, with pragmatism in mind, in terms of putting together a set of proposals for how we can move forward. So much appreciated for everyone involved in the Uncommon Dialogue. And secondly, let me thank all those senators and representatives, everyone, members of Congress involved in the bipartisan infrastructure negotiations and discussions, of course, passed through the Senate at this point and then pending in the House of Representatives. And there's been some huge hydro champions as part of those discussions as well. Certainly Senator Cantwell is a champion, Senator Murkowski is a champion, but there's many other champions on the hydro side of things responsible for really the historic opportunities for hydro, among other technologies, in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. You mentioned the $750 million. That is a big amount of money, as you know, Malcolm, in this area, and a big amount of money that we're going to be asked for, assuming this legislation passes, and we're doing everything we possibly can from the department to make sure that this legislation passes. That is an awful lot of investment, needed investment, in our opinion, on the hydro side of things. So among other buckets, that's $125 million, as you mentioned, to incent and encourage added hydro generation that's not currently, dams not currently used for hydropower. That's a lot of funding to get those additional hydro assets. $75 million to improve efficiency of existing hydro. That is a lot of money to get that existing hydropower even more efficient. And $553 million for grid resilience, dam safety upgrade, environmental enhancements. That is a lot of funding in those areas. So this is a historic window of opportunity. We're going to work with our bipartisan senators, bipartisan House members to get that passed, along with the reconciliation counterpart as well. And we look forward at the Department of Energy to be entrusted to spend that money to work with partners, again, through the Uncommon Dialogue, through the 3Rs, to take the most out of that historic level of investment.
Well, we appreciate that, and we're very excited about what we see as a huge and important down payment. But what could even be more transformative is a long-term investment in the existing assets. Despite its value to the grid, we feel that hydropower is often taken for granted and unfortunately increasingly at risk. 30% of the fleet is up for relicensing over the next decade. That's 13 gigawatts of carbon-free generation. On average, it takes 7+ years to do a relicensing, and that's on average. So many facilities take over a decade or longer. The paperwork alone, on average, costs $3.5 million. That's not counting the millions for new turbines or fishways or dam safety investments that you're going to make. So it's critical to maintain the 80 gigawatts of existing hydropower and 23 gigawatts of pump storage, which is why we're such huge supporters of the tax proposal that Senators Cantwell and Murkowski have suggested for a 30% tax credit to maintain and expand existing hydropower. And that would include a direct pay provision. So public power, which is half of the hydropower fleet, would also be able to participate. We are hoping that that provision gets included in reconciliation. Let me ask you, what's your view of the importance of those additional tax incentives?
Well, thanks for that, Malcolm. And as you suggested, and I referenced in my previous answer as well, we've got both the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the $750 million that we were just talking about, historic levels of investment. And then we have the counterpart legislation, the reconciliation piece as well, that the House is going to be moving on this week, and then some additional activity in the Senate and the House to put together the various components of that bill. Both of these by themselves would be historic opportunities for hydro, including, as you mentioned, on the reconciliation piece in terms of the tax incentive discussions that will be happening in the Finance Committee in the Senate side, the Ways and Means Committee in the House side. You put those two together, and that is a truly historic, once-in-a-generation opportunity to really move on a variety of critical technologies, hydro, of course, being an incredibly important one. One of the statistics that always sticks out to me on the hydro side is we've got 90,000 dams in the US, and only 2,500 of them currently have hydropower. To me, that signifies, and hydropower is not appropriate for all of those 90,000 dams, but there's some huge, huge opportunities there that we've not taken advantage of, whether it's on the storage side or whether it's on the just generation of electricity side. And as we talked about earlier, if we're going to get to that 2035, 100% clean electricity, we've just got to go. We've got to go on the tax incentive side. We've got to go on the variety of other tools and authorities at the Department of Energy. So we're going to be going like gangbusters with all the authorities, all the funding that Congress gives us on that front. But we're not waiting for that already to get going, right? We're doing an awful lot from the Department of Energy side of things, including our Hydro Wires initiative aimed at maximizing the capabilities of hydro and pump storage to provide that flexibility to get going on that. Literally every week and month, a new report, a new FOA, a new funding opportunity, request for information, again, so that we can be the partner to help catalyze and take advantage of this historic window of opportunity.
Yeah, which we really appreciate. It was over 5 years ago now that Department of Energy's Water Power Technology Office put out their Hydro Vision report, which found that using the existing infrastructure largely, the U.S. could generate an additional 50 gigawatts of additional hydropower. And very little of that, 1 or 2 gigawatts, was new stream reach. Most of it was new pump storage, closed loop, or non-power dams. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that in reconciliation, we are also pushing for a long-term extension of the tax credit for non-power dams. If you add generation to the existing dams, you can get a tax credit. We're also supporting the energy storage tax credit, which many people think of as geared for batteries, but it would also provide a 30% tax credit for pump storage, which we think could be transformative. Can you tell me a little bit more about DOE's efforts to help industry, either pump storage and new generation? And I think you mentioned earlier kind of a new effort with respect to long duration energy storage.
Yeah, happy to do so, Malcolm. And useful to underscore to all our listeners, of course, we've got this bipartisan infrastructure, we've got the reconciliation piece, but we've got our regular budget process as well. And just another sign of the commitment, certainly from this administration on the hydropower side, is the request in our FY22 funding for DOE. That's a 31% increase in funding for the marine side, for the hydropower side. That is the single largest request ever by any administration for hydropower going forward. And we certainly hope to work with our appropriators on the Senate and the House side to get that level of funding that, again, would allow us to do even more with those additional new authorities and funding streams with the bipartisan infrastructure piece and on the reconciliation side of things. In terms of the partnership with industry and how we're trying to go about that, maybe a few things I'd add to what I've already elaborated on before. One is we're spending an awful lot of time at this department thinking in a systems way, thinking of how hydro fits into the overall system, again, to get us to that 2035 clean electricity goal, which is not that far off, right? We're already in 2021, in the 8th month of 2021. We've not got 15 years. It's actually 13 years and a few months change in order to get to that goal. So we've got to move incredibly quickly. We've got to do the planning and the systems approach, thinking of the resiliency, thinking of the transmission, thinking of how hydro fits in and how to take full advantage, again, including the pump storage opportunities and enhancing that forward as well. Just today, our Water Technologies, Power Technologies Office is announcing another request for information, this time looking at testing needs for new hydro technologies to collect information on existing infrastructure, trying to identify best practices in this space, trying to identify a new opportunity for hydropower testing facilities across the country. Again, so we have all parts of the system in place. The other thing I'd stress and underscore is this administration will be working in a much more place-based kind of way. Important for a lot of technologies, including hydro technologies as well. Working with communities, listening to communities, figuring out how assets might be used, as you were saying, Malcolm, even more on the hydropower side, for the good of that community, for the good of the overall system, and to help us achieve those incredibly ambitious overall goals, including the 2035 clean electricity goal.
Well, thank you for all that DOE does, and I know that research is really at the heart of DOE's mission, and from enhancing hydropower's black start capabilities to the market research, the Hydrowires effort, which is hugely exciting. Department of Energy has helped industry develop kind of new turbines to help address dissolved oxygen and make them more efficient. The team really has been doing a great deal of work on hydropower, and we appreciate it. In the interest of time, let me go to my final question, which is that while NHA is focused mostly on U.S. hydropower, I know the U.S. Department of Energy has been working a lot in cooperating with international agencies to advance hydropower. So could you tell me a little bit more about what's going on the international scene?
Yeah, happy to do so, Malcolm. And maybe just a comment on what you were just saying and what we were talking about in terms of working with communities, working with industry. This is an area where we're only going to be successful if we work together. And certainly from the Department of Energy side of things, we need the guidance not only from NHA, we need the guidance from communities, we need the guidance from industries. What can we do to be a helpful partner as we take full advantage of these historic opportunities and windows? Certainly applies incredibly compelling in the domestic context, which is where the bulk of our efforts and focus are, of course, when it comes to hydro from the U.S. Department of Energy side of things. But we're also very much working on the international side, and there's a huge opportunity space for increasing discussions, collaborations where appropriate on the international side. So let me just give you a few specific examples of that. Kelly Speaks-Bachman, our just terrific acting Assistant Secretary for ERE, our Energy Efficiency and Renewables team, is co-chair of the International Forum on Pumped Storage Hydropower, really trying to help that government multi-stakeholder effort really achieve its full potential. We've got bilateral cooperation with many, many countries. DOE and Norway's Ministry of Petroleum and Energy committed to collaborate on R&D, and thank you for the nice words on all the R&D that we do on the hydro side, and we'll continue to do and only increase and enhance that going forward. We've got partnerships with Canada, the Natural Resources Canada, NRCan, for those who know the acronym, and trying to do a lot of good bilateral efforts on that front. But we have discussions all the time with other G20 countries. The Minister of Minister of Energy for Brazil was just in town last week, and we had extensive conversations and spent a good bit of that time talking about hydropower. Some of the opportunities, and Brazil has a lot of hydropower on its system for those who know the Brazilian system. They're also having some droughts, and we're having some droughts here in the US as well, and we've got to be very thoughtful about how to go forward on that front and make sure that, again, we take care of just get the full potential out of hydro. And there's a lot more work and opportunity space there.
Agree 100%. Deputy Secretary Turk, really thank you for your time today. You've been very generous. We appreciate your support and that of Secretary Grenholm. I'd also be remiss if I didn't thank DOE's Water Power Technology Office, Kelly Speaks-Bachman, Alejandro Morano, the whole team there, and the national labs for all of their efforts in moving hydropower and marine energy forward. National Hydropower Day is a great opportunity to reflect on what hydropower means for America, and we hope that everyone watching has found this discussion informative. If you want to learn more about hydropower in all its forms, we encourage you to visit our website, www.hydro.org. Thank you very much, and happy National Hydropower Day.